what's going on, everyone? ELF Championship game is this Sunday. Don't forget to tune into the game, but also you could catch me and the guys from the Cover 7 podcast on a little, watch along on the new, formerly known Twitter, now X. So come in, check us out, join the conversation. We'll talk some ball. We'll probably chop it up for the first half. Well, again, we're going to be on X. It's going to be a watch along. Again, base coverage with the Cover 7 podcast.
We doing everything they talk about. You know I'm everything a boss about. Not putting work and gotta toss them out. I'm really biting, they just barking out. I'm really riding, they just parking now. His street, what to talk about. See the big H when I'm walking out.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this episode of Base Coverage presented to you by Knoah Teamwear. I'm your host, of course, Jamal Clay, and it is Media Week. As Base Coverage, we are covering the ELF Championship game this Sunday in Duisburg as the Stuttgart Surge are going to travel to play on the Rhine Fire. So today, we're going to talk a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, the side of the ball that I'm mostly familiar with and more happy to play than the offensive side. So I brought in some guys that play some ball this year in the ELF, some of the top performers, help break down this game. And we got Jabri Regan, defensive end for the Anthroners. We got Luke Glenna, the only guy in the world who was able to tackle AJ Wentland this year. And we got John Falk from my Helvetic guard. So I'm gonna bring those fellas in. What's going on, guys? How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Good. I'm glad I'm able to get you guys on, talk some ball a little bit. Obviously, we got a good matchup, a side of the ball we're all familiar with. Two teams that are fairly similar, so to say, in terms of, how they play, at least on the defensive side, when you look at the numbers a little bit. But let's get into how these teams got here. So let's start with the Stuttgart Surge. So Jabri, when you look at the Stuttgart Surge and their defense and the season that they had, what have you noticed or what have they done that got them to where they are in the championship game?
I think they played like very, very well collectively on offense. The big thing for me that kind of surprised me was, I guess, I only saw maybe, I forgot his last name, but there was one player that was kind of like on that sack statistics list, but just like as a defense, they played collectively well. You didn't hear much about him with regards to those stats that they release on ELF Network, which I really admire. But just collectively as a defense, just very sound, played very well. Offensively played sound very well. Didn't get to see much of them on film just because we didn't play any teams that played them, but got to check them out here and there on some ELF Game Pass stuff and some ELF Network or the highlights that they released. But definitely very good team on both sides of the ball.
And I think when you look at this team and the coach and Coach Jordan Newman and his philosophy and how he coaches, he's always, obviously, playing team ball, but also, playing the full 60. And this is a team that's, has played, high scoring games and has also won 6-3. Right. So they're willing to play any type of game, any type of battle. And obviously, you mentioned some guys, but Kalen or Curtis Thomas, they're leading tackler. Also Samson Giavellini, I believe I pronounced his name right, who's pretty good as well. And then on the back end, you got guys like Mitch Fettig and Goran Zek in the secondary. And then you think about acquisitions that they pick up in Aslan Zetterberg, from the formerly known Leipzig Kings. So this is a team that has, progressively continued to get better and willing to play any type of style of ball. But now they're going up against, a Rhine Fire team, a team that even preseason has showed, and with their signings, that they have a lot of depth, especially at that linebacker position. All right, they brought in a lot of guys from the Cologne Centurions previous year with, Morris Kinsey, who's balling, Flatmore Simon, who's having a great year as well. And then on the back end, you got guys like Amari Williams, who will literally take any pick to the crib as well too. I think he led in tackles. Not to mention they signed, someone like Alejandro Fernandez from Barcelona, who quietly had 11 sacks this year. So when you look at the Rhine Fire and that type of defense and those types of guys that they have, Luke, tell me about, how did they get to where they are today in the season from beginning to end?
Yeah, they've been dominant all year. I mean, we see a lot about their offense and the points they put up and how many touchdowns Jadrian's thrown for, but I mean, their defense has just been consistently like getting off the field. Yeah, like you talked about, Omari has 3 pick sixes for like a crazy amount of return
Yeah.
yards.
And
So
he takes them
wherever
all to
he
the crib
catches that
too.
thing, right? And then yeah, like Alejandro, I know I would have loved to have him in Barcelona with me this year. He gets after the quarterback really, really well. Yeah, they're just a solid defense all around.
Yeah, it's they're solid in Stuttgart start, and even when you look at numbers, and obviously we get it, numbers don't tell the whole thing. But even when you look at the numbers, they're fairly similar, right? The Fire, and when it comes to the turnover margin, they're +11. The Surge are +8, right? When it comes to where they're ranked, they're both right around like 8, 9, 10 in terms of overall defense. But those numbers never really tell the whole story. Obviously, they've done enough to get them in the game, and now we got these two defenses going up against 2 of the top 3 offenses that the ELF has had this year. So, John, I'm going to go to you on this one. If you're the Stuttgart Surge and you're going up against the Rhine Fire, obviously you had a chance to play both those teams. Like, how are you going to be able to, what are you going to try to stop? What are you going to try to take away, if you were going up against the Rhine Fire?
Well, it's very difficult, like, because when you face like Rheinfire, they have like all those different information, those different personnel, they do a lot of play action. So they stack the box with 8 guys to have one-on-one on the side. And they have like good matchup with everyone, like there is no like weak players you can pick on. So I would say, like, first of all, I would say if you dominate, you can stop the run, then you give a shot, to your defense to make some plays as well. So I would say you have to get to Jadran Clark early in the game, get to his mind, get him sacks, and you get pressure quarterback and stop Glenn Tonga to run the ball that hard, because he can break through some good, like he did against Surge like 50 yards against Frankfurt, 50 yards a run. So, it's always, like you have to be consistent and you don't have to give anything. So it's really about, I don't think you can try to match up 1 or 2 receiver or something like this, because everything is good. So it has to be sound and try to surprise them, because the Surge is playing pretty much, they're playing 3 high safety, middle of the case, so Rheinfire knows that. So maybe surprise them with something different a little bit to try to get something out of it and get some pressure.
Most definitely. And Jabari, let me ask you this, for someone that's in the trenches and on the D line, when you're going up against a team that, an offensive line that's pretty much been steady the whole year, not a lot of injuries, not a lot of guys like in rotation, and it's a team that, can run the ball. Obviously, they do lean a lot on Jadrian, but they do have that running element, especially having Glenn. But Jadrian has pretty much had a clean jersey all year. When you're going up against a talented offensive line like that, would you say it's important to, blitz, pressure, try to get there with just 4 and drop 8 in the coverage? Like, for someone on the defensive line, what would you prefer when going up against an offense like that?
With regard to their personnel, I mean, from what I've seen from Stuttgart, I see like a lot of 3 down linemen. Honestly, I think,
is that going to work?
At best, I genuinely I feel like it depends on how they play it, but for me, I think their weak point may be going against Rhine Fire, them in coverage against those receivers, and just like John said, it's just like they're solid at every position. Like they really, there's not many weaknesses with regard to Rhine Fire, from running back to receivers to obviously Clark at quarterback. So I think they may, I feel like they may have to, me personally, just kind of just like stay away from blitzing and just hope your 3-man rush can get to them, and take a little bit more pride in rallying to the ball on the run, and defending the pass as much as you can, because the receiving core for the Rhine Fire is obviously something that can cause problems for Stuttgart.
Would you throw line stunts at them?
I would actually throw line stunts at them to definitely mix up the look. It gets a little bit difficult with that 3 down lineman.
Yeah,
trying to do that.
Because then you get linebackers and DBs involved.
Yeah, if you mix it around with like one linebacker stunt, every now and then in there. But if anything, I would only have 3 or 4 man pressures at max.
Absolutely. Well, when you look on the other side of the ball and you look at the Rhine Fire defense, right? A defense that primarily is, 4-2-5-ish for the most part, two eye safety. They really, like the four down linemen with, Eric Adams and Alejandro Fernandez on the outside. And then obviously Morris Kinsey and Flatmore in the middle, and then the talent and the speed in the secondary as well. But you're going up against a Stuttgart Surge team, who has like a Kai Hunter or Pascal Pasqualini at running back, or a receiver where, or they could run the rock. And I think that what they're going to try to do is control the game here, and keep Jadrian and the offense off on the sideline. But even on the receiving core, Louis Geyer, phenomenal season he's having, and to see his progression from year 1 to year 3 now. And then, you got Yannick Mayer, who's crazy athletic, and Darnell Stewart basically went off for 200 last week versus Vienna. So, Luke, I'll go to you on this one. Is this going to be the most talented offense you would say the Rhein Fire has seen this year?
Definitely one of them. I think they're so balanced. They got Nicholas Kandar too. I think his first game for the Surge was against us, and he ran all over us. Like they got three backs they can roll out. They got Riley runs that offense super, super well. You can tell he's super experienced in it with his RPOs and all of that. And then, three receivers. Like if you try and double Stewart, you still got Mayer and Geyer that can make huge plays all over the field. So they've got weapons all over.
The thing that the Fire like to do is they'll throw their American imports. They'll throw them at safety to try to keep everything in front. So when you're looking at that type of matchup, obviously you got the guys that could, stop the bunch. But do you see the Surge trying to, spread them out, right, and take advantage of maybe the personnel? Do you feel in this game is more about clock management, try to establish the run game, and take your chances when you have them?
I think so. Just taking care of the football. I feel like whatever they can do to keep the Rhein Fire offense off the field, they're going to try and do, just because of how dominant and explosive they are. And if they can establish the run game and then hit their little quick passes and then open up some play action with their receivers who can take the top off, I think they have a chance.
Most definitely. And obviously in the championship game, these types of games, stars are born, stars are made, right? So John, I want you to give me one X factor from each team on the defensive side who could be a difference maker in this game.
So from the defensive side,
I
would say, like, if the front six of the Rhein Fire can stop the RPO with Nicolas Kandar running the ball and the good read from Hennessy, then the Surge is going to be in trouble. So that's going to be the first things to do, with being able to stop the run with the front six of the Rhein Fire against the Surge. And from the other side, I would say, as I will come back to what Jabari says, is as the Surge can put pressure with the 3-man front on Jadrian, so they can drop 8 guys and run to the ball and stop their offense. That would probably be this. If they cannot get the quarterback with 3-man rush, then they're gonna have to start, to bring more people, and then they have less guys in coverage. So that's, to me, the 2 X factors they can face.
Yeah, I think looking at it, we're really going to see early, what the game plans are. Obviously, if the Surge, what are you going to do? Are you going to continue to play light, with the three down linemen? Are the Rhein Fire going to do something maybe they haven't done all year, become more of a running team because of it? Are the Surge going to team because of it? Are the Surge going to try to, go pound for pound, score for score, and this is going to be a 53-48 type of game? I don't know, but I feel like we're going to teams are going to establish early what they're going to try to do, and then obviously we'll see what they do at halftime for adjustments. But with that being said, Brian, let's make some picks, man. Who you got in this game?
Just like you said, I think it'll be a close game. Depending on how teams decide to play it, and how it goes in Europe, is like you don't have too much time with regard to preparation. So I don't think guys are going to be throwing in too much crazy stuff with regard to preparation. But I think it'll be a close game. But I've got Rhein Fire probably pulling it out.
Rhein Fire, all right, going with the Fire to complete the undefeated season. First team probably to ever do it if it happens. So,
yeah.
Luke, who we got in this game, man?
I think Stuttgart can pull it off. I think
Here we go.
yeah, they just beat an undefeated team last week. I think they're playing really well right now. Their offense is dominant. Stewart looks extremely hard to guard, and I think they can do it. I'm hoping they can. I think they're playing well. It'll be exciting to see with that coach in his first year in the ELF too to
Most
be able to
definitely.
get one.
Keep in mind, this is somewhat of a home game for the Rhine as they are playing in the Duisburg. So we'll see what happens in that aspect of it. Also, not only do we have great players, but we have great coaching in this game, right? You got Jim Tomsula.
Yeah.
You know, that name speaks for itself. But you also got a guy who was dominant in GFL, won about what was it, John? 82 games before they ran into the guards or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's been in those types of situations. So, even though the Surge are a completely new team, they're actually a more experienced team than they've ever been as well. So we'll see. That's why I think this game's going to be intriguing. But, John, bring us home, man. Who you got?
I will go with the Rhine Fire. I think
Fire, all
like
right.
playing the Rhine Fire for 4 quarters. I mean, the way they adjust the second half every time, it's you can tell against Frankfurt, semifinal, and you just check out the result at the end of the game. I mean, their OC is really really good for adjustment at halftime, and playing them 4 quarters, it's hard. So I would say, yeah, it's gonna be very very tight to me. And then, I mean, maybe, a difference maker during like 3rd or 4th quarters for Rhine Fire.
Well, we will see what happens. But what I would say is that, if there's any team that could play the full 60, it's definitely the Stuttgart Surge.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to claw their way all the way to the end, win, lose, or draw. So, hey, it's going to be an exciting game. Hey, fellas, I appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank
good
you.
luck this off season and whatever you decide to do, whether it's coming back to the ELF or bigger and better things. But it won't be the last time, we chop it up again. So I appreciate you guys for your time, and we'll talk soon.
Nobody.